I am Michael Brennan, 58 years old. On March 14th, I died in my seminary office while researching the Feast of Trumpets. As I reached for my Hebrew lexicon on the top shelf, the pain hit me, like a spike driven through my chest. I recall the book falling, pages fluttering like white birds, and my knees hitting the hardwood floor. Then there was nothing. Complete, absolute nothing. For 11 minutes and 37 seconds, I was clinically dead. I had been teaching biblical Hebrew and prophecy at Dallas Seminary for 23 years. My wife Sarah and I raised 3 children in a little brick house 5 minutes from campus. Every morning I would kiss her goodbye and drive to work, listening to worship music in my old Honda Accord. That Friday was meant to be special. I was preparing a sermon about the Feast of Trumpets, scheduled for September 2025. I discovered a 2,550-day pattern that sent excitement coursing through my hands. 7 years exactly, biblical perfection. I thought I understood what was coming, but I had no idea how wrong I was. The first realization that struck me was the silence. It was not ordinary silence, it felt different, as if the universe was holding its breath. I was looking down at my own body, crumpled on the familiar office floor, with my glasses broken and coffee spilling from a mug I had knocked over, spreading toward my research notes about the feast days. Strangely, I felt no panic. Rather, I was enveloped by an overwhelming sense of relief. Then I heard it, a sound reminiscent of wind rustling through 1,000 trees, ocean waves crashing, thunder rumbling, and children laughing all at once. Although turned isn't quite the right phrase when you do not have a body, I was drawn toward the light. Oh, the light. How can one describe a color that does not exist on Earth? Imagine every sunrise you have ever witnessed compressed into a single point, then exploded outward in waves of pure love. That description hardly does justice to the experience, but it is the best I can offer. The walls of my office became transparent. I could see through them, through the building, and through everything around me. I saw my assistant, Jennifer, hurrying down the hall. I saw her find my body, saw her scream, and saw her hand tremble as she dialed 911. But it all felt so distant, as if I were watching a movie through water. I felt myself being drawn upward. Not pulled exactly, but invited, like a child running toward their father's open arms. The ceiling faded away, the sky opened before me, and I moved through layers of reality I had never known existed. Each layer was more beautiful than the last, filled with colors that had no names and sounds that were simultaneously feelings, joy that was also light. Then I encountered beings of pure radiance. They were not angels as depicted in paintings. They were alive in ways that are beyond explanation. They were singing, but their song was not merely a sound. It was creation itself, woven with mathematics, poetry, and love. One of them gazed at me without eyes as we perceived them, and I felt truly known, completely and utterly known. Every secret thought, every hidden shame, every small act of kindness I had ever performed was all observed, understood, and somehow loved. "Michael," the being said, though no lips moved, "he's waiting for you." I've devoted my entire adult life to studying Jesus, reading every gospel in Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, writing 12 books about him, and teaching thousands of students. Nothing prepared me for that moment. He stood in a garden, not like any garden on earth. This was alive, in ways our gardens only aspire to be. The flowers were singing, the trees were dancing, and the grass beneath his feet seemed to glow with its own inner light. But I barely noticed these wonders because he was looking at me. Those eyes, brown and deep, holding the history of every human who ever lived. Within them, I saw my mother's face on the day I was born, my children taking their first steps, Sarah saying yes when I proposed, every student I had ever taught, and every person I had ever harmed. I witnessed every moment of my life, and within those eyes, I saw love. Not merely the word we use for love, but the essence of love itself, raw, infinite, overwhelming. I fell to my knees, not out of obligation, but because every cell in whatever I had become recognized its creator. Michael, he said, and my name in his mouth felt like coming home after a journey spanning 10,000 years. As I prepared to speak, 30 years of sermons left me without words. He smiled, a smile that contained the birth of galaxies, and helped me to my feet. His hands bore faint scars, like distant memories. From his touch, I felt every broken part of me knit back together. Every doubt, every fear, every wound I had carried. "You have been studying the appointed times," he said. I nodded, still unable to articulate my thoughts. The Feast of Trumpets, the 22nd of September, the 25 and 50 days. Yes, Lord, I believe something is coming. The patterns, the alignments. He raised his scarred hand. "You see the shadow, Michael? Let me show you the substance." In an instant, the garden vanished, and we stood in space. It was neither cold nor dark. Stars surrounded us like a congregation of diamonds, and Earth floated below, a breathtaking scene of blue and white beauty. "The Feast of Trumpets," Jesus said, "is not about dates. It is about awakening." He gestured, and I beheld time itself laid out like a scroll, past, present, and future all visible simultaneously. Every feast I gave to Moses was a love letter. Passover, my blood covering you. Unleavened bread, my body broken for you. First fruits, my resurrection securing yours. Pentecost, my spirit living in you. Images flowed before me. I saw the actual events, Moses receiving the law, the first Passover in Egypt, Jesus at the Last Supper, the resurrection morning, and the Holy Spirit descending like fire. "But trumpets," he continued, his voice reverberating with a weight that made the stars pulse. "Trumpets is different." Suddenly, we were in ancient Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. I could smell the incense and hear the priests preparing their silver trumpets. On earth, you count days. In heaven, we prepare hearts. The 25 and 50 days you discovered, yes, it is significant. 7 prophetic years, completion. But Michael, my people are focused on calendars when they should be looking at hearts. The scene shifted, and I saw millions of people worldwide, all checking dates, calculating timelines, and arguing about pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib. Jesus' face bore a sadness that made my heart ache. "They are missing it," he said softly. "The Feast of Trumpets is not about when I return. It is about being prepared when I do." He revealed 2 individuals, both Christians who believed in him. The first was consumed with timelines, his walls adorned with charts. He was familiar with every theory, every date, and every sign. But his heart was cold. His marriage was crumbling. His children did not know him, and his co-workers witnessed no love within him. The second person knew nothing about the feast and could not explain what 25 and 50 days meant. Yet she loved immensely. She fed the homeless, visited prisons, comforted crying children, and forgave her enemies. Her life was a living trumpet call, awakening everyone around her to God's love. "Which one," Jesus asked, "is ready for the trumpet?" I could not answer, for I saw myself in the first man. September 22nd, 2025. Jesus said, and now we found ourselves standing on a mountain overlooking the entire earth. Yes, it begins something. The 25 and 50 days are not random. But Michael, the trumpet that matters most is not the one that will sound in heaven. He touched my chest, where my heart would be. It is the one that sounds here every day, awakening my people, not to dates and times, but to love, to service, to sacrifice, to forgiveness. The vision broadened as I observed the church, not as buildings, but as people, millions of them. But so many were asleep, spiritually unconscious, going through the motions, playing church while their hearts grew cold. The true Feast of Trumpets, Jesus said, occurs every time one of my children awakens, really awakens, stops playing religious games, and begins to live in the kingdom. He revealed the 22nd of September, 2025, as events began to unfold, not the rapture, not yet, but a shaking, a global awakening. Economic systems were trembling, nations in upheaval, and in the midst of it, his people were forced to choose comfort or courage, safety or sacrifice, the kingdom of this world or the kingdom of God. The 25-50 days, he explained, represent a period of separation, wheat from chaff, those who know my voice from those who merely know about me. It is not punishment, it is preparation. My bride is making herself ready. I saw believers around the world. Some fell away when comfort vanished, while others shone brightly as darkness deepened. The persecution that arose was unlike anything anticipated, coming not only from governments or religions, but also from within. Families fracturing, churches splitting, friends betraying friends. Yet I also witnessed glory, such glory. Miracles reminiscent of the book of Acts, healings, provisions, divine protection, and love. Love so radical it converted executioners. Love so pure it melted the hardest hearts. "This is what you must tell them," Jesus said, and his eyes were like fire. "Stop calculating dates. Start calculating the cost. Stop trying to escape Earth. Start transforming it. The Feast of Trumpets is not about leaving. It is about being so full of heaven that Earth cannot contain you anymore." He showed me one final vision, a moment in time, still in the future, yet certain as sunrise, every knee bowing, every tongue confessing, a trumpet sound that would shake the cosmos, his return in glory. But then he revealed the faces of those who were unprepared, good people, churchgoers, individuals who knew all the right words, but had never allowed those words to change them. I felt anguish for them when they understood what they had missed. Not the event, but the relationship. Not the date, but heart preparation. "Tell them, Michael," Jesus urged, tears mixing with glory as they streamed down his face. "Tell them the trumpet is sounding now. In every moment they choose love over hate. In every second they forgive instead of holding grudges. In every instant they serve rather than being served. That is the real Feast of Trumpets. That is what the 22nd of September signifies. Not an escape plan, but a revolution of love." The vision began to fade, yet Jesus had one final insight to share. I saw myself back in my office teaching, but the atmosphere felt different. Charts and timelines no longer dominated my lessons. Instead, I was teaching love, practical, radical, transformative love. My students were not merely learning, they were being transformed. Your work is not finished, Jesus instructed. You have a message to deliver. But Lord, I replied, I have finally found my voice. They will not believe me, a near-death experience. They will say it was hallucinations, lack of oxygen, brain chemistry. He smiled again, that same smile that seemed to cradle the birth of galaxies. Some will not believe. It is their choice. But others are so hungry for truth that they will recognize my voice, even in yours. Those are the ones you are meant to reach. I do not wish to return, I confessed, the words spilling out like a child's admission. It is so beautiful here, so perfect, so real. Everything else feels like shadows now. I know, he acknowledged, and pulled me into his embrace. How can one describe the experience of being hugged by love himself? Every abandonment I had ever felt healed, every rejection erased, and every fear dissolved. I was a child in my Father's arms, and in that eternal moment, nothing else existed. But Michael, he whispered, if you stay, who will tell them? Who will warn them that the trumpet is not about escaping trouble, but about becoming the kind of people who shine the brightest in darkness? Who will communicate that the 22nd of September is not a deadline but a starting line? I knew. He was right. Of course, he was right. Will I see you again? I asked, already anticipating the answer, yet needing to hear it. I never leave you, he responded. Every time you choose love, I am there. Every time you forgive, you touch my heart. Every time you serve the least of these, you serve me. And yes, Michael, one day, sooner than you think, but not as soon as you hope, you will be home for good. Please, I pleaded, just a little longer. Let me stay a little longer. Yet as I uttered those words, I felt the pull, back toward earth, back toward my broken body on that office floor. Remember, Jesus said, his voice following me as I traversed backward through layers of glory. The feast is not about the trumpet that calls you home. It is about becoming the trumpet that wakes others up. The light faded, the warmth receded, and that perfect love transformed into a haunting memory, beautiful and wondrous, destined to linger with me for the rest of my days. The last sound I heard was his voice, soft as a whisper, yet powerful as thunder. Tell them I am coming, not to scare them, but to prepare them. Tell them the oil for their lamps is not knowledge, it is love. Tell them, Michael. Tell them the trumpet is sounding now in every act of love they choose. Then pain, crushing, burning pain, shouting voices, electronic beeping. We've got him back. He's back. The fluorescent lights felt like needles piercing my eyes. Do not try to move, Dr. Brennan, a nurse said as her face appeared above me, kindness radiating from her tired smile. You gave us quite a scare. My throat felt like sandpaper. How? How long? You were down for almost 12 minutes, she informed me while adjusting my IV. The paramedic said it was a miracle we got you back. 12 minutes. It had felt like hours, like seconds, like eternity. Dr. Rahman, my cardiologist for years, entered the next morning, a good man, a brilliant physician, but a complete skeptic. Michael, he said, studying my charts with visible confusion. I do not know how to explain this. Explain what? The damage to your heart. It is less than it was yesterday, significantly less. That does not occur. Heart tissue does not regenerate overnight. He showed me the scans. The first one displayed massive damage. The Widowmaker, they called it, should have killed me instantly. The second scan, taken that morning, displayed healing that should not exist. "Have you encountered anything unusual?" he inquired carefully. I almost laughed. "Unusual? You would not believe me if I told you. Try me." So I did. Not everything, as he was not ready for that, but enough. I recounted the light, the presence, the overwhelming love, and the message about the urgency of time running short. He listened, did not interrupt. When I finished, he remained quiet for a long time. "You know," he finally said, "we observe this sometimes. Oxygen deprivation causes the brain to create comforting illusions as it shuts down. Is that what you believe it was?" I questioned. He scrutinized the scans again, examining the impossible healing. "I do not know what I believe anymore," he confessed. "But I know you should not be alive, and I know that heart tissue should not appear like this. So perhaps there are things we do not comprehend." Sarah arrived about an hour later. My beautiful Sarah, 55 years old, and still the girl I fell in love with in Bible college. I noticed her tears, evident in the puffiness around her eyes, even though she was trying to be strong. "Do not ever do that to me again," she said, gripping my hand so tightly that it hurt. "Sarah, I saw him." She froze. "I saw Jesus?" Then I shared everything, the details, the words he had spoken, the revelations regarding the Feast of Trumpets, the 25 and 50 days, the warning, and the promise. She began to cry, not sad tears, but the kind that come when truth hits so hard that it breaks something open inside. "The kids need to hear this," she insisted. "The church needs to hear this. Everyone needs to hear this." Later that afternoon, my son David, 28 years old and working at a tech startup, visited. He had not been to church in 3 years. "Dad," he said awkwardly, in that way adult children often do in hospitals. "Mom said you saw something." "David, I need to tell you something, and I need you to truly listen, not as my son, but as a human being who needs to hear this." I told him about the two people Jesus showed me, the one obsessed with religious knowledge and the one who simply loved. I expressed how I saw myself in the first individuals and how misguided I had been all those years. "I taught you theology, doctrine, Greek words, and Hebrew phrases, but I did not teach you the only thing that matters: how to love as Jesus loves. How to rise every morning and choose to be a trumpet call of grace amid a world drowning in hatred." David listened quietly, then asked, "Dad, are you saying the world is about to end?" "No, son. I am saying it is about to begin. The real world, the one where we stop pretending and start becoming who we were meant to be. The 22nd of September starts something. A clock, a countdown. Not to destruction, but to decision. 7 years to choose the kingdom to which we truly belong." My daughter Rebecca visited next. A skeptic and scientist with a PhD in molecular biology and a razor-sharp mind. She had little patience for what she characterized as religious mysticism. "Dad," she said, "I am glad you are okay. But Mom is talking about messages from Jesus and prophecies." "And Becca, what would you say if I told you I could prove it?" "Prove what?" "That my experience was real." I had her pull up my laptop and showed her the files I had been working on prior to my heart attack. The 25-50-day pattern I had discovered, along with connections to Daniel's prophecy and the astronomical alignments for September 2020 and 25. "Now," I said, "let me explain what Jesus revealed to me about those calculations and what they truly signify. She listened, debated, and posed questions, everything I anticipated. However, when I recounted the garden, the singing flowers, and the dancing trees, I noticed a shift in her expression. "That's," she began, then hesitated. "What?" "That is what I dreamed about when I was little before I decided it was all fairy tales. A garden where everything was alive. Truly alive. Not merely biological processes, but conscious joy. It is real, Becca. More real than anything here." My youngest child, Matthew, drove through the night from college to see me. At 19 years old, he was on the seminary track, studying ancient languages and the whole program. "Dad," he said, eager but exhausted, "tell me everything." So I did. But when I reached the part about the trumpet sounding now, in every act of love, he began to cry. "What is it, son?" "Last week, I walked past a homeless man who asked for food. I had a sandwich in my backpack, but I was late for Hebrew class." "Your Hebrew class? The one you are guest teaching?" "I chose the class over the man. I chose knowledge over love. We all have, Matt. That is the point. But it is not too late. The trumpet is still sounding. We can still choose a different path. I have been out of the hospital for 5 months now. It is August. As I share my story with you, the 22nd of September is merely weeks away. People ask me if I am frightened, if I am building a bunker, storing food, preparing for catastrophe. A number. I am learning to love, the real kind of love, the sort that requires sacrifice, the kind that forgives when it seems impossible, the kind that serves even when it is inconvenient, the kind that places others before self every single day. Here is what Jesus did not reveal to me. He did not show me how to escape what is coming. He demonstrated how to be ready for it. And being prepared is not about knowing dates or comprehending prophecies. It is about becoming the kind of person who brings heaven to earth merely by being present. The Feast of Trumpets is not simply a calendar event. It is a heart condition. It is occurring right now, in this moment, as you decide how to respond to what you have just heard. Some of you will dismiss this, and that is okay. I probably would have too before I died. Yet some of you, I can feel it even as I speak, know deep down, beneath all the religious noise and theological debates, that something is shifting. The spiritual atmosphere is changing. The trumpet is beginning to sound. September 22nd, 2025 is not the end. It is the beginning of the end of pretending, the beginning of choosing, the beginning of becoming who we truly are, either darkness or light, either love or fear, either the kingdom of man or the kingdom of God. The 25-50 days are not a countdown to abandon. They represent a transformation period, a cosmic labor pain, a 7-year journey into the depths of what it truly means to follow Jesus. And it commences with love, simple, radical, earth-shaking love. The kind that defies worldly logic, forgives 70 times 7, turns the other cheek, goes the extra mile, and lays down its life for both friends and enemies. I do not know when Jesus will return. Even after everything he showed me, he did not provide that date. What he revealed was more significant. He demonstrated how to be ready no matter when it occurs. Be the trumpet. Do not wait for it. Be the trumpet in your marriages, sounding forgiveness. In your work, be the trumpet that resonates integrity. In your neighborhoods, be the trumpet that projects compassion. In your churches, be the trumpet that embodies unity. Stop arguing about pre-tribulation or post-tribulation. Start living as those who have already encountered tribulation and emerged refined. Stop calculating dates. Start calculating the cost of discipleship. Stop striving to figure out the mark of the beast. Start bearing the mark of the Lamb. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The world is on the verge of a dramatic, irreversible change. The birth pangs are beginning, but remember, birth pangs do not lead to death. They lead to new life. Do not fear what is coming. Be transformed by who is coming. Do not hoard food. Instead, hoard love. Do not build higher walls. Build longer tables. Do not shrink away from darkness. Shine brighter because of it. There is one more message Jesus wanted me to share, specifically for those who believe they have strayed too far, sinned too much, or failed too often. He showed me you, yes, you, listening right now, carrying that weight of shame for far too long. He instructed me to tell you that the trumpet also calls you home, not to judgment, but to healing, not to condemnation, but to restoration. Come as you are. The feast is prepared, the Father is waiting, and all of heaven rejoices when you turn toward home. The 22nd of September, 2025, marks the Feast of Trumpets. The 2,550 days begin. But the real feast, the real trumpet, the genuine awakening starts now, in this moment, with your next choice, your next breath, your next opportunity to love. The trumpet is sounding. Can you hear it? It sounds like forgiveness when you are wronged, generosity when resources are scarce, peace amid chaos, hope when everything seems lost. It is the sound of Jesus calling his bride to prepare herself. And preparation does not equate to perfection. It means being willing, willing to love when love demands everything, willing to trust when it feels foolish, willing to believe that the God who died for you is worth living for, regardless of what lies ahead. I died on March 14th, 2025. For 11 minutes and 37 seconds, I was gone. But I had not truly started living until I returned, until I recognized that every moment is a trumpet call, every choice is a feast, every act of love is a declaration that his kingdom is coming, and his will shall be done on earth as it is in heaven. Do not wait for the 22nd of September. Begin now, today, this minute. The trumpet is sounding. The feast is prepared. The bridegroom is coming. Be ready, not with charts, timelines, or theological arguments. Be ready with love. Just love. Always love. That is the true meaning of the Feast of Trumpets. That is what Jesus wanted you to know. That is why he sent me back to tell you that the trumpet you are waiting to hear is the one he is anticipating you to become. Listen. Can you hear it? It is the sound of heaven invading earth, one act of love at a time. It is the sound of the bride preparing herself. It is the sound of Jesus calling you home, not to a place, but to a way of being. Not someday, but today. The feast has begun. The trumpet is sounding.